thank you everybody for listening to the Meaningless podcast, where we go over memes and point out whether or not they're meaningless. Today, we are going to go over a meme. Actually, we're going to do several. Full disclosure, we're recording several episodes today, but
yes, buckle up, folks.
The meme we're doing for this specific episode is one of my least favorite kinds of memes, and that is the sarcastic Willy Wonka meme.
That's too bad because I love Gene Wilder. I mean,
same.
I'm
yeah.
sporting his movie.
Yeah, it's so funny you'd wear that today. Like that's so perfect.
All right, let's see. We got the best ever Willy Wonka right here. Sorry, Johnny. No offense, but
Gene Wilder was better. Yeah.
And he's got his elbow up on a machine. He's leaning up against his hand there, and he says, "So you said you would move to Canada if Trump won? What's wrong with moving to Mexico?"
All right. So, anybody who's familiar with memes is going to
speak Spanish. That's going to be a problem.
It's funny because we're going to get to that. So, anybody who is familiar with memes probably knows exactly what this image looks like because it's been used a million times in these sarcastic posts.
I've even seen that one.
What do you think this meme means when it says that? When it says, you said you would move to Canada if Trump won, what's wrong with moving to Mexico? What do you think the point of this meme is?
Well, I'm not sure. Are they just asking why Canada and not Mexico? I mean, there's the obvious problem with Trump in Mexico. He doesn't seem to like him. He's going to build that wall to keep him out, right?
Yeah, and this is posted by a lot of people who obviously support Trump, and obviously supported or posted by a lot of right-wing people. It even has Trump in it as part of the subject of the meme. Essentially, this meme in the classic format of sarcastic Willy Wonka. This image usually makes a sarcastic point about something, and it is my least favorite kind of meme. It's the kind that is arrogant and has that superiority of I know everything and you know nothing, essentially. It suggests that the poster is very certain about the thing they're posting and has no intention to be presented with any contradiction to the idea. That's the impression I always get when I see these memes. It is so certain and so full of itself that the person posting it is not about to listen to reason.
Right.
But this one is suggesting that people who support immigration to the U.S. from Mexico want to move to Canada and not Mexico because Mexico is apparently a bad place and therefore the left should stop, or therefore the country should be stopping immigrants from coming here at all. It suggests that deep down the left knows that Mexico's a bad place and that's why we should keep Mexicans out of the U.S. But before we tear any further into the subject matter of the meme, I would like to talk a little bit about the image itself and who is in it. So we have Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka, as we mentioned. He was an awesome comedian and great actor, very funny guy, huge in the 80s. He was in movies like Hear No Evil, See No Evil, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Silver Streak, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, and the list goes on. Now, this is an obviously right-wing meme. It even mentions it's clearly made to make fun of people who don't like Donald Trump.
Right.
So it would be interesting to talk a little bit about Gene Wilder's political beliefs.
Okay.
Since they're using him as a mascot.
Right.
So Gene Wilder wasn't really known to talk too much publicly about his politics. But this is an interesting quote from him, considering that he's being as a right-wing mascot. In 2008, he said, or about the 2008 election, he said, "I like Barack Obama. I think he has a chance. It'll be difficult, but it'll be a great move forward for the U.S." Maybe not the right-wing mascot they want.
It doesn't sound like it, no.
Yeah. Also, he donated $2,300 to Obama's campaign, which was either close to or was the maximum limit that an individual could donate to a single politician's campaign at that time. Since then, that has been increased to $3,300, but the fact that he donated basically the maximum that he could to the campaign showed that he really seriously was in support.
Yeah.
He was also a big supporter of stem cell research. Another quote from him, he said, "I saw Christopher Reeve at the U.S. Open Tennis Championships in 2004. I told him I had stem cell transplant. He was going to have an embryonic one in 2 months' time in another country, but he died 6 weeks later. It's insane, the lives that could be saved." Probably not their right-wing mascot. No. Probably not the right-wing guy they want. But people will likely argue that it's the subject of the meme that matters, not the actor himself. Fine, but please stop using Gene Wilder to push your right-wing agendas, because he was not supported. He was most certainly not a supporter of it. It kind of reminds me how the right often uses Dr. Seuss memes to support pro-life messages.
Okay.
Dr. Seuss fucking hated Republicans. He hated Republicans and made multiple political cartoons making fun of them. So, again, not your right-wing mascot. Leave Dr. Seuss and Gene Wilder out of this.
Right.
But let's move on to the subject of the meme. So, why do you think people come to the U.S. from Mexico, or from Mexico and from South America?
Well, because it's better here. I mean, they can get more money. They can, it's just a better way of life, it seems like. I have a guy that I work with at work, and he's been telling me a little bit about it. He came from Mexico about a year and a half ago, and he says that he was getting like $800 a month. And he was working like 3 jobs. This was from one job. I think the 800 was from one job. Mm-hmm. But he was working like 3 jobs down there. And, well, he's working 3 jobs up here, but he's making a lot of money up here.
Yeah.
And, he's, able to live. Like, he got COVID, and he had to miss work, and they fired him for it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was like, that's bullshit.
That is bullshit.
Give him a couple days off, he'll come back. He's a great worker. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know, that's just stupid. So I feel like it's just better up here. I mean, like, I don't know exactly what's going on down there, but there's got to be a reason everybody's trying to get in here, right?
Yeah, and and in fact, so like, yeah, they are often looking for opportunity, looking for work. Very often, they are also migrants are also trying to escape high murder rates, drug cartels, human trafficking, things like that.
Yeah.
So, I've got a quote from Pew Research, actually. It says, asked about their willingness to migrate to the U.S., 35% said that they would move to the U.S. if they had the opportunity and means to do so, including 20% of adults in Mexico who said they would do so without authorization. So even illegally, they just wanted to get into the U.S.
Yeah.
So this meme suggests that when people want to move to Canada and not Mexico, it's evidence that people from Mexico are bad and that the left knows it and that we shouldn't be letting them cross the border into the U.S. But then again, like the last nonsensical meme we covered, this actually teaches the opposite of what it's trying to say. If people are trying to escape drug cartels, murderers, kidnappers, that is a reason for us to help them migrate to the U.S. This is a reason for them to be let in rather than being sent back to, the drug cartels and the murder capitals of the world. If there were the criminals, if they were the criminals, they would likely want to stay in these so-called criminal havens, where they can get away with this shit.
Right.
And instead of moving to the U.S., where they're more likely to get prosecuted.
Yeah, well, I mean, they spent all that time digging those tunnels anyway, so would you want to move? I mean...
They put a lot of work into those tunnels,
yeah,
God damn it.
I'm going to use it.
Why would... So, the immigrants coming here are not likely the criminals themselves.
No.
It's often people trying to escape the crime. And trying to escape the people perpetuating crime, like these high crime rates. And I'm not going to undermine at all that there are dangerous places in Mexico and South America. Like certainly Central and South America have a lot of extremely dangerous places. I'm not undermining that at all. But if moving to Mexico is really so terrible as the meme suggests, then sending migrants back there would be cruel, especially if their families are targeted by drug cartels, gangs, and murderers. We should feel more obligated to allow them to enter the U.S. and seek a better life than life is in Mexico. If it's bad, just like the meme says. So just in the 2 sentences in the meme, it already shoots itself in the foot. But there's a catch a little bit. not everybody in Mexico thinks that life is better in the U.S.
Right.
There are people who prefer to live in Mexico, obviously. So the idea that it's just horrible for everybody is kind of well, there is a lot of dangers down there. There are a lot of problems. To just say that it's terrible for everyone would be a blanket statement that's not entirely true. This is a quote from the Pew Research is from pewresearch.org. It says, the views Mexicans have of life north of the border are changing. While almost half, 48% of adults in Mexico believe life is better in the U.S., a growing share says it's neither better nor worse than life in Mexico. Today, a third of adults in Mexico say that those who have moved to the U.S. lead a life that is equivalent to that in Mexico. And that was a raise of 10 percentage points after the Great Recession. Because people in Mexico didn't want to move to the U.S. because we didn't have opportunities.
Right.
Like the country financially was kind of falling apart. So to suggest it's terrible for everybody in Mexico, not entirely accurate. Another thing wrong with the meme, arrogantly suggesting that people not wanting to move to Mexico must mean that those people just know it's full of terrible people, is the fact that completely overlooks many other reasons why an American would rather move to Canada. I can give one glaring example, and you've already spoiled this kind of. But all I have to do is ask you 3 questions, and it will spell out very easily one of the number one reasons why somebody would rather move to Canada than Mexico. What language do most Americans speak?
English.
What language do most Canadians speak?
English.
What language do most Mexicans speak?
Do they speak English? No.
No. Yeah. I know you're fucking with me.
Nah, I fucked it up.
No, but like it's Spanish.
Yeah.
Like an adult moving to a new country, the language barrier is a huge factor in deciding where you want to move.
Yeah.
So this meme being so arrogant, saying, oh, well, why not Mexico? And thinking that you've trapped them or cornered them into this, oh, well, because everybody's terrible in Mexico. No, like that doesn't make any sense. There are plenty of good reasons why people choose one country over another.
Yeah, the weather, it's a huge difference in Canada versus Mexico.
Yeah. Plus,
it's hot in Mexico. I don't want to be hot.
Yeah. Some people hate the heat.
Yeah, I'd rather be cold.
My boss would die in Mexico. He can't stand the heat. He absolutely can't. He hates it. He loves the cold and he loves snow. Like he would move to Canada probably in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Plus, free fucking healthcare in Canada.
Yeah, I've heard that's not so great though. Like it takes forever to...
Okay. How long does it take to get healthcare here in the U.S.? I went in for emergency dental work because I was in excruciating pain and it took them a month to get me in. And that was an emergency.
All right,
and
so maybe it's not that
even
much
called
different.
it an emergency thing, and that was the earliest they could get me in. Plus, I've taken my dad to the ER multiple times because he'll go to the ER for just about anything, and I sit there for hours.
Yeah.
Hours. And then Brandy went in, turned out it was a kidney stone, but she was in 10 out of 10 pain and was like, couldn't even speak to me when I first got to the ER with her. She couldn't even respond to me. That's how much pain she was in. And it took hours before she got any medication, period. They didn't even give her something for the pain in the meantime.
Yeah.
So the idea that the free healthcare system is somehow going to make healthcare slow undermines the fact that it's already fucking slow here.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I don't know exactly the wait times. I didn't really, vehemently research that because that's not what this episode is about.
Right.
But later on, we could talk about socialized healthcare, and I could do some research on it and find out what the facts are. But I do know in my own experience, I already wait forever at hospitals and for healthcare.
Okay.
So it's not. I mean, it's already an issue, And another thing about the argument against free healthcare, meaning that there's going to be longer wait times because more people are going to go in for healthcare, means that you would prefer them to not get healthcare. So it's like it doesn't. I mean, logically, it doesn't, or at least morally, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But anyway, that being said, it is mind-boggling that these people think that just because someone says Canada and not Mexico, it must mean that it's because everybody in Mexico is dangerous. And again, I'm not undermining the fact that there are parts of Mexico that are very dangerous. But
there's probably parts of Canada that aren't terribly safe.
Well,
I mean, probably less, but
Canada's got a much lower crime rate than
I bet they've got some dark corner somewhere. Like, don't go down that alley.
Yeah, I'm sure the places like that. But yeah, no, like Mexico does have glaringly awful places in it, and in fact, we're going to go over one of them as well. But this is me making fun of the left because some people are wanting to move to Canada. When we elected a president who has had more business failures than successes, bragged openly about sexually assaulting women and being able to get away with it, said that Mexican immigrants are rapists and murderers, and it makes even less sense. Making fun of the left for saying they want to move to Canada makes even less sense when you look at a trend that was happening when same-sex marriage was legalized in the U.S. A lot of right-wing people couldn't wait to post about moving to Canada. And that reminds me of a very interesting article that I have here. Now, so this is from BuzzFeed. I don't usually use BuzzFeed for any type of research, but this was entertaining. So this article has a list of people wanting to move to Canada on June 26, 2015, the day that gay marriage was legalized in the United States.
Yeah, because that's so awful.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people get upset about that.
Yeah, it doesn't, like it's affecting them so badly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they're going to be forced to marry same sex, anyway. But we've got, at Van Hoven says, so the U.S. is now allowing gay marriages. Time to move to Canada. Colton Tate says, moving to Canada. This country is corrupt. These are all posted on June 26th, 2015. Corey Piles, I'm moving to Canada. Kakashi says, well, this country is going to hell after that. I'm moving to Canada. Champ says, I'm moving to Canada. Lord of Wolves says, gay marriage is now legalized in the entire U.S. Moving to Canada. Zach Gregory says, moving to Canada, eh? Baby Cub, Zach Gregory, he also goes by Baby Cub, posted a follow-up that said, this government is fucked up. Then Alex Jack says, well, it looks like I'm moving to Canada. Anyone want to join? KCD says, moving to Canada. Bye. Roy the V says, finding my wife and moving to Canada. David Whitus 80 says, I'm moving to Canada. Johnny Trill says, moving to Canada. This can't get any worse. Metal.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently.
Guys got weird issues.
Apparently.
Two men can marry each other? It's the end of the fucking world.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst thing that's ever happened.
He says as he's eating plenty of food and has a job, like, you know, probably in a house with, heating and air conditioning.
Yeah.
But,
indoor plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, it's miserable. That poor man.
Yeah. If that, I mean, I'd say if that's the worst he's experienced, he should count himself lucky.
Yeah.
Madeline Sarton says, oh, fuck no, I'm moving to Canada. Kennedy Hughes says, I'm moving to Canada. Hell is going downhill, to be honest. No one remembers where a country is founded upon.
Did they really say anything about that in, like, the Constitution?
I don't think they were ever like...
fathers are like, no gays, get out.
Yeah, they're like, it's Adam and Eve to Adam and Steve. Thanks for your contribution, Thomas Jefferson.
Well, you just proved us all wrong. There it is, right there.
Thanks for your contribution, Jefferson. With that Adam and Steve comment, you really hammered home what this country's all about. Then we got Blake Baumgartner. The last one on this list says, I'm moving to Canada. This country has gone crazy. There might just be one problem with them all moving to Canada. Canada legalized gay marriage 10 years before we did.
I was going to ask, because, like, isn't it legal up there?
They legalized gay marriage a decade before we did.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
you're going to be running into gay people everywhere. They're all going to have rings on their fingers, and they're going to be happy. Or, well, some of them will be divorced and angry, but, you know.
Yeah, no. And so, like, I hope they had fun in Canada. I really do. But so somebody argue that the post still has a point. And the point still stands that if a place of origin has a huge crime rate, then allowing migrants from those areas is inviting crime into our country. And in fact, a quote from Donald Trump, who was part of the subject of this meme, said, referring to Mexico, they aren't sending their doctors and lawyers, they're sending their murderers and rapists. So I guess we'll just have to ignore the fact that he doesn't seem to realize that there are people in the middle of that spectrum, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just because you're not a doctor or a lawyer doesn't mean you're a murderer or a rapist.
Yeah, it's not just the, 4 choices?
Yeah. You know,
Pick one.
Like, that's how binary
I don't want to be a rapist.
It's how binary that kind of thinking is, you know? Like, to him, it's like there are high earners and then there's monsters, you know?
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. Yeah, so we'll just gloss right over that. You know, there's no middle class. There's no such thing as that. Just rich people and murderers. But let's focus on the idea that allowing migrants crossing from Central and South America means that we are inviting crime to the U.S. And to address this, I have a quote from the University of Pennsylvania's Criminology Department. Over the past decade, researchers have identified several natural experiments which can be used to understand the effect of increases in Mexican immigration on crime. By leveraging unanticipated weather shocks in Mexico, which wreak havoc on the local agriculture and thus spur migration to the United States, and taking advantage of the considerate regional variation in Mexico's demographic transition decades ago, scholars have identified conditions under which the receipt of Mexican immigrants in the U.S. cities appears to be arbitrary, and that therefore is not a function necessarily of local economic or crime conditions. Therefore, they had a broad scope of Mexican immigrants coming to the U.S.
Right.
The results of this research offer little evidence that Mexican immigration increases crime in the United States. If anything, there is some evidence that crime declines after immigrants arrive. These findings are supported by research from the Public Policy Institute of California on the composition of inmates in California prisons, which reveals that Mexican immigrants are dramatically underrepresented in the state prison system. For those who are skeptical that these findings are true, consider the case of El Paso, Texas, a working-class city of approximately 700,000 people that sits opposite the Rio Grande River from Ciudad Juarez, one of the most violent and lawless cities in Mexico. More than 80% of El Paso's residents are Hispanic, and the vast majority of those individuals are of Mexican origin. A large proportion of El Paso's Hispanic population are immigrants. In fact, El Paso has one of the highest proportions of immigrants among U.S. cities. Many of these migrants are undocumented. If those who fear Mexican immigration are right, then El Paso should be a hotbed of violence. As it turns out, El Paso is one of the safest cities in the United States with a homicide rate of 2.4 per 100,000 residents.
Wow.
Yeah, just a tiny handful of American cities have a lower homicide rate, and most of those that do, San Diego, Chula Vista, and Mesa, Arizona, for example, also have outsized Mexican populations.
Yeah.
So, the cities with more Mexican immigrants are safer than the cities without them.
Well, yeah, because the people who don't want the violence, they're the ones that are leaving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're the ones
so
coming.
They're the safe ones. They're just happy to be here. Nobody's shooting at them on a daily basis. You know, there's no bullets flying around unless you move to Peoria.
Jesus,
don't move to Peoria.
But like, you know, like the lower crime rates are part of the reason why they want to move here.
Yeah.
You know,
it's safer.
Yeah, and so like it doesn't make any sense. So to the person who made this meme, your meme is dumb and it does nothing for you to post it. I mean, I like a lot of people are going to need your share that post.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody I know did.
Oh.
Yeah. But like when you think about it for just a little bit, it falls apart immediately.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I think people are dumb.
I mean, they are. That's true. There's a lot of dumb people out there. But at the same time, like that's sort of the nature of memes, is that they're presented in a way, in this little surface level piecemeal way that discourages people from actually looking into them by trying to look clever or be funny, and they make these statements of fact that get shared all over the place without people. Like this one, you don't even really have to research it to know that it's wrong. You just have to think about it logically,
right.
And it already starts to fall apart. But like people will share this stuff right away because they are desperate to have somebody on their side supporting what they already believe. And that's why I thought it was important to cover this meme.
Yeah. Okay.
So, any closing thoughts? Besides, people are dumb.
No, that pretty much sums it up.
Like the thing is though, like with memes like this, like the person doesn't even necessarily have to be dumb to knee jerk share it. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's just you get the little dopamine, and then you share it, and you get your likes, and you get more dopamine. And it's like that process does not encourage thinking, even by smart people.
Right.
So it's that's the danger of memes. That's why we started the Meaningless podcast. Anyway, thank you guys all so much for watching. You can follow us on X at Meaningless Pod. Thank you all so much for listening. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.